What is up everyone, Master League is coming later today, so let's get ready for it. Today's video I'll show you 5 great teams you could run in the Master League. Starting off with a Rhyperior team. Rhyperior is a Pokemon I'm very excited for, as now that it's gotten access to Breaking Swipe, it has become a very solid core breaker to some common Master League cores such as Ho-Oh Dialga and Dialga Giratina. That is with the Butt Slap, Breaking Swipe, Rock Wrecker moveset, by the way, which is the moveset I'm recommending in this team. But you could also consider running Rhyperior with Smackdown, Breaking Swipe, and Superpower, which is another very potent moveset, but just not for this team. In other teams, that could definitely work very well, though. In this team, though, I like Mud Slap, because this team kind of functions to bait out Dialga, basically. I'm running Rayquaza in the lead. Rayquaza with Breaking Swipe is a very nice lead, as you can drop your opponent's attack early on in the match. And if you do happen to win a lead, people just love safe swapping their Dialga. And what is a very good answer to safe swap Dialga? Rhyperior, as you can just start mud slapping them down and have a lot of energy for the next matchup. And nothing really loves taking a Rock Wrecker from Rhyperior. And if they do, mud slap usually does a lot. Like the only Pokemon that really want to take like a Rock Wrecker are like Elmodal maybe, but then they can't farm you down, right? So energy on Rhyperior is always going to be very useful. If you do end up having a bad lead, we got Zacian in the middle as a very solid pivot. I don't know what moveset I'd recommend here, to be honest. Definitely go Quick Attack, Close Combat. I think that's the way to go to beat steel types like Excadrill or Mamoswine. It's not a steel type, but Mamoswine is definitely a problem for Rayquaza, Rhyperior. Both of them do have beta, especially Rayquaza. If you just use some shields, you can definitely get close to winning that matchup, close enough to where your other Pokemon can close out the game, at least. But if you do end up facing a Mamoswine like in the back or something, you are gonna need close combat on Zacian for it. Second move, though, kind of depends on how many Ho-Oh and Giratina you're seeing in the back. If you're noticing a lot of players switching in Giratinas versus your Zacian, you need Play Rough on that thing, close combat Play Rough. If you see a lot of Ho-Oh in the back, go Wild Charge. Personally, I think there's a lot more Ho-Ohs in the lead than there are in the back. So I don't think Wild Charge is like super necessary, especially since Giratinas are often in the back, at least more than Ho-Oh. So personally, I would suggest you go Close Combat, Play Rough on Zacian, but you do end up seeing, what did I say? Close Combat Player, yeah. Close Combat, Play Rough on Zacian, but if you do end up seeing a lot of Ho-Ohs, consider Wild Charge instead of Play Rough instead. Like I pointed out earlier, there's a couple core breakers to the sim, like the Mamoswine, not ideal for Ray and Rhyperior, but Ray can get close there. Metagross, definitely a bit of an issue though, but again, Ray with debuffs can definitely do something versus Metagross. Rhyperior is fine when shields are up, and I mean, Zacian just loses, but at least can do a lot of damage with its charge moves. So Metagross, definitely a Pokemon you gotta watch out for, but generally it's not a super common Pokemon, so you should be fine there. If you don't have access to legendaries, this is the team I'd recommend. Dragonite Double Steel with Metagross and Excadrill. Not a very creative team. This is a team that's been ran for many seasons by a ton of different players, and it's become quite predictable. But even though it's predictable, it's still performing very well. Even last season, I saw several players do very well with this squad in very high elo, like above legend rating. So yeah, it definitely has a lot of potential. In this squad, I think your pivot is really going to depend on the lead, really. If you face a fairy in the lead, you're definitely going to want to switch Excadrill, because that's going to be your soft answer there. If you face Dialga, I generally prefer to switch Metagross, but generally Excadrill too. So honestly, I think most of the time you can definitely just pivot Excadrill, lure out the main Metagross answer, and then Metagross is going to sweep the back. Next up, another tried and true team with Ho-Oh Dialga core, a duo that's been dominant in Master League for many seasons. Now it has finally gotten another core breaker in Rhyperior, but even Rhyperior won't be enough to stop Ho-Oh Dialga's reign in Master League, I think. One, because I don't think Rhyperior will be like super common, as it is definitely very good, but it's not going to be top meta, as some of these Pokemon above here are. And besides that, Dialga still has a lot of play versus Rhyperior with Iron Head. So even if you do end up facing one with this core, Dialga is going to be able to grab a shield in the mid game, and in the end game maybe even knock out the Rhyperior with an Iron Head. So even against Rhyperior, this core has play. There's a lot of different variations you could do with this. Ho-Oh Double Dragon is a very common variation. So Ho-Oh Zekrom Dialga, very strong. Ho-Oh Dialga plus Fairy, very, very strong. It doesn't even matter which fairy you really use. Zation is very strong. Xerneas is very strong. It's really going to depend on your own personal preference. The variation I used last season to hit Legend was Ho-Oh Zekrom Xerneas. It's honestly not the combination I would recommend. I just really dislike Dialga, honestly. It is a very boring Pokemon to run in my opinion. So I prefer keeping it in my box and not on my team. Honestly, if you really want to gain points, go with Ho-Oh Dialga plus Fairy. That is definitely the strongest variation. If you want to be a little spicier, the Zekrom can definitely work there too. And it's a little more like unpredictable. So I like how it can throw some opponents off guard, which really helped me in my Legend run last season. Next up, a team I really wish I could run, but sadly can't because I don't have a Landorus. Dialga, Landorus, Ho-Oh. Very simple ABB team, honestly. Dialga in the lead, mainly to beat Kyogres and Giratinas, which are tough for Landorus, Ho-Oh. Landorus as your pivot, which can just do a lot of damage versus whatever switches in. Hardest counter probably being like Kyogre, but even there, if you don't throw a move, you can Stone Edge plus Super Power, nearly threatening a knockout. So very strong pivot Landorus. And then, you know, once you've lured out that Landorus Ho-Oh answer, like Kyogre, like Giratina, Ho-Oh can just destroy the back. Ho-Oh in the back is not super common. Most Ho-Ohs you'll see are in the lead, and that's kind of what most people are preparing their teams for. So having a Ho-Oh in the back can really throw some people off guard, and that's why I really like the whole idea of this squad. Definitely a couple core breakers like Rhyperior being the Dialga Ho-Oh core, but again, don't think they'll be that common. Should be manageable, especially if you can get the Rhyperior aligned to your Landorus. And then Mamoswine is also not ideal, but really, it technically beats both Dialga and Landorus, but both of them have a ton of play there. Dialga wins the 2 shields straight up, can also Iron Head to knock out in a single hit, and then Landorus has Super Power to hit Mamoswine as well. So overall squad with some really good coverage. Next up, a team I made to make Groudon shine. Groudon is an amazing closer in this meta as it can hit everything, except for the flying types super hard with Precipice Blades. To cover for Groudon's main weaknesses, mainly to Kyogre, Lugia and Ho-Oh, I got Giratina Altered in the lead. I think Altered here is important as Groudon can also really struggle with Dragonite, Rayquaza and Yveltal. And Giratina Origin really has no play versus these, but Altered actually has a ton of play. I'm running Shadow Claw, Dragon Claw and Ancient Power on it, and with that moveset you can actually beat Rayquaza in zeros, Dragonite in ones, and you have a super effective move from Yveltal. That's not an ideal matchup though, so in the case you do see an Yveltal lead, which I predict to be very rare, you probably just want to throw like a single Ancient Power and then try to catch a Dark Pulse on Zacian. That's gonna be your win con there. Versus the Dragons though, I highly recommend you just stay in with your Giratina and play that matchup out. Giratina can win the 1s versus Dragonite and the 0s versus Rayquaza, so just play that out. And generally with these Dragon Flying leads, they're gonna be super weak to Groudon in the back. The most common lines I've seen with them are like Double Steel, which Groudon loves, and Steel plus Fairy, which Groudon also really likes. So overall, you're gonna want to play this line like an kind of an BA kind of line in which you're just gonna let your lead go to make a Pokemon on your back sweep, basically. In the case of like a Dialga lead, you don't want to stay in though, you want to go into your Zacian. Zacian, by the way, is going to be your pivot here. Never pivot Groudon, because if you get aligned to a flying type, the game is just over. Zacian, much less likely to get hard countered, especially with the moveset I'm recommending as Quick Attack, Wild Charge, and Play Rough. Might sound like a bit of a crazy moveset without close combat, but you already have 2 Pokemon that do fine versus steals. Well, Groudon mainly is like really good versus steals. Giratina does fine versus most steals, except for Dialga. And Zacian, even with Play Rough, does fine versus Dialga too. And the thing is, if you do face a Dialga lead, you're going to switch to Zacian. Generally, you're going to switch out anyway, right? So you don't really need close combat there. And I think Wild Charge is kind of mandatory for Ho-Ohs, which you might see coming in. And Play Rough, you really need for like Giratinas, which this team would also kind of struggle with. So overall, I think this is a team with a lot of play. just really gotta know where you're gonna let your Giratina go in the lead, which is gonna be against Dragon flying types, or where you're gonna switch against into Zacian, which is gonna be against other leads like Yveltal and Dialga. Finally, a bonus team. This is actually a team I don't recommend anyone to run because it has way too many core breakers, but somehow it did absolutely incredible for me near the end of last season. It's actually the team I ran the most after I hit Legend. I gained several hundred points with this squad, which made me end up on the final Season 15 global leaderboards at place 338. So yeah, this team has proven it can work. The squad is Shadow Tyranitar with Smackdown, Brutal Swing and Stone Edge, Lugia, Dragon Tail, Sky Attack and Aeroblast, and Groudon with Mudshot, Fire Punch and Precipice Blades. Now with the Lugia nerf, it's definitely going to be a little less potent, but I don't think the Lugia nerf is that large that this team will be completely unusable. So I'll definitely be trying it out myself again, and figured I would share it as I had so much fun running this team last season. The main idea of this team is to win lead with Tyranitar, really. This is a win lead, win game team, because Lugia Groudon core is incredible. Editor though here, I just want to say that is a little bit of an oversimplification. You can definitely win games with this team if you've lost a lead. I did that many times. There just isn't a set strategy on how to play versus lost lead. You really just gotta play scrappy, bank energy, catch moves, and hope you can deplete their energy or their HP faster than they deplete yours. The main issue with this idea is that a Dialga can really ruin you, but I found that even if you go like a shield down with Tyranitar in the lead and the Dialga comes in, generally teamwork between Lugia and Groudon can still take out the Dialga, and then you just gotta be kind of lucky that whatever you've got remaining can beat whatever they've got remaining. And overall, somehow this team seemed to do that. So yeah, that's this team. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to explain this team. It worked. If you want to have some fun, maybe try it out. Anyway, that was it for the teams. Let me know what you're going to be running in the Master League down in the comments below. I'd love to know. And I'll see you in the next video. Good luck with your battles, trainers.